Well, hello, hello. Welcome to Pieces That Pat Paints. I'm Pat. We are painting, well, we're not painting today. We're prepping to paint today is what we're going to do. So, like, painting requires these things. You have to get whatever it is you're going to do ready to actually paint. And we haven't actually done a lot of that on the channel so far. So this is exciting. We get to do a little bit of that today. Which is, like I said, it's not something we typically do or get to see. You get to see so far. A lot of this stuff I've already had prepped up and ready to go, and here we are. Now let's give Bobby a new picture. What do you say? What do you say? What do we get? Ooh, we have a lovely mountain view. Very nice. All right, and Bob's got something to eat now. Well, we made I was painting this table for our D&D game, and so I just put it over there for him to, and now he's got a feast. Anyway, so we're going to prep up this model. There's a little bit of work that we got to do here. I went ahead and got these two pieces that had got knocked off in transit back on. But there's a lot of, when you 3D print things, there's supports that have to be put in to keep it, to get it to print properly. And then there's also some times where you have lines where the print didn't, maybe it misprinted, or there may have been a tiny little fiber in the resin itself, and it creates something, or lots of different things that can happen. So you've got to kind of look over the model and decide what needs to go and what doesn't. So like this one's a great instance. So like right here, this is definitely a piece of support. So that's going to have to come out. And usually when they are supports, they'll come off pretty easy. I like to use a hobby knife to do this. If it makes you nervous, you could always use like a pair of tiny little snips. But getting into little places like this, it's not easy with a pair of snips. And what I'll do a lot of times is I'm just going to kind of gently wedge that knife in there, and it'll kind of come loose. I really don't want to put a whole lot of pressure on this, because it's just you don't want to snap it, and it can. Now look, you can see here where these bits, that's not a support. That's some part of his hair. So we need to make sure that we have that going properly. So, this is such a great model. I'm really excited. Anyway, it should be interesting to get it done. And some of that, like right here, okay, so here's one where we had a misprint on the layer. I don't know that you can actually see that properly on the camera, but it's right there. That's a mistake from the print, and that sort of stuff happens. A lot of times you can kind of get that to come off with your knife. If it's not going to want to come off with your knife, then you're going to have to start maybe thinking about filing it. And that's kind of a last step. We really want to avoid filing on certain things, because you can take away some of the detail that's already on there. So with this particular one, we're going to try to get that to come off. And you can use the back of the knife, or whichever. Let's see, Sir McBeasley Esquire. I love that screen name, man. That's legit. That model has some great detail. I can't wait to see it put together and painted. Radagon is such a cool boss design to begin with. Yeah, it's gonna be legit. And here's some of the rest of him. So we've got there's a lot of things we're gonna have to do. So I'm gonna add a pin to this column piece. so that when it'll go a little further up in him and give him some stability. Same thing with his arm. He's got this fantastic hammer piece that goes with it. This is going to look legit. I'm really excited about that. And then there's an extra glyph. It's shy. Glad you like my protectives. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. That's fantastic. So yeah, so there's this extra glyph piece, and he's supposed to actually have that in his chest. So we're gonna have to figure out how to paint that in there, and that one's gonna be a little bit of a trick, but I think I have an idea. So I mean, there's a couple other little things we gotta fix. Like there's a piece that probably got popped off when they were removing it. There's just a little thing there, and then these two braids don't seem to have the ends of them there, and neither does this braid. I couldn't find them in the box, so I think that they may have just accidentally gotten knocked off when they pulled them out of the supports, and that happens occasionally. And so it's, if you buy these things and you don't know how to do all these little bits, this is definitely something you want to watch, because this will show you a lot of how to get rid of that little weirdness that sometimes you get from a resin print. And really, you'll get them from filament prints. Filament prints they're even harder to dial down for the smaller details. But just a little bit, if you just spend a few moments of time evening that out, when you go to paint it, you'll be a lot happier. And it'll look better in the end product. You just got to be super careful with all those little wisps. Make sure, like, we got some solid bit right here between his chest and that back of the head. So that's a really great place to grab onto him, because it does take a little bit of pressure to get that off. And we'll probably end up, hitting him with a can of air to make sure we get all that dust out of there before we prime him. Could always chalk that up to the fact that Radagon is shattered and the hair bits are getting broken. It's lore friendly. True enough. These won't be a whole lot of trouble. If I were, if you were going to be painting them at your own and you didn't want to go through all that, then yeah, I'm going to do it just because, the channel we get to do, it's a fun thing to show off the techniques and gives us more episodes. That's one of the things I'm kind of starting to try to be okay with, where I'm like, oh, this is taking too long, and just try to enjoy showing off the different techniques and stuff, and making this channel kind of educational, which is what I set out to do. And I'm a teacher type. I just like, that's my MO. All right, so let's get back to looking. I think that one's looking pretty good. So right here, these are obvious support pieces. So same thing here. We're just going to try to gently pressure them till they come out for us. And kind of give that knife a little bit of a twist. It'll come out. If you've got to cut it towards the piece like this, towards where its thickest part is. I'm really trying to stay away from hitting that first. I want to get this weak, and then I'll come back that way and get this weak. Ooh, that'll scare you. Again, some guys have little snips that they'll use to snip that out of there. When it's this fine, I find those snips, I end up breaking more things than I can pull out. So I'll use just like that. And right here, so this, you can see where it's flat here and it's coming out. This was supposed to be something, another bit of hair or something like that was supposed to come out with it. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to take this off, and then we'll come back and we'll sculpt a little bit more, and we'll just kind of finish this out. We'll probably shorten it more than it was supposed to be originally, but it'll look legit. And just to kind of clean those things up and this is common with all printed pieces. There's always, especially the higher the detail. The higher the detail, the more chances you got something's not going to go well. And so you just kind of have to know a few little things about how to get them taken care of. Yeah, there's some tricks on getting them out of the molds as well as other things. I really need to get, this is Sir Beardsley replying again. I really need to get into figurines. I have this gorgeous mirrored display case here in my office. It would be perfect for these. Absolutely, man. If you like painting and stuff, it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to kind of get yourself a hobby to do something else and keep your mind focused. Instead of just watching TV. I get enough of watching movies and stuff. I can't do that forever. Or even playing video games. I like video games, but after a while, I just started getting bored with it. I gotta have something else to do. And I'm a creative type, so I like this sort of stuff. There it goes. Nice. Okay. Alright, so now we got those little lumps on here. This is all we got left. Now, you could pick away with them with that knife, but he's itching. But I highly recommend using some files. Now, I've got a nice little set here. I've had these for years. And so these are great little pieces to have. And they come in all sorts of different types, rounds and flat-sided and beveled and stuff like that. And I like these ones that have kind of a tip to them for this kind of a job, because you can get in there and it gives you a better chance of getting an angle. The flat-sided ones are not quite as easy for this. Neither are your, a sanding stick. You can also buy this sort of thing, which is a sanding stick. Now this is going to be your two different grades of sandpaper attached to like a piece of foam core, and it works out great for like a broader, longer bits of things if you're trying to sand that. But if you're trying to get these little details, a lot of times your best bet are these little files, and if you can't even get there with the little files, you're gonna have to use your knife, and that's when it gets a little hairy. That knife, it can get scary. Razor is usually so sharp on it, and it can slice right through you if you make a mistake. And and little things like this, tiny little guy, a lot of times it's easier to do this with a file, just because when that knife hits it, it's gonna. Sometimes it just pops it the wrong way. Like that guy is gonna have to come out with a knife. There we go. You want to try and get these little pocks off as best you can. If they don't want to come off too easily, then you might want to file them off. Again, like Shai was saying, this is a place where we can kind of have a little bit of tears and rips, because he's kind of disintegrating. It's a really interesting deal. I've been looking at some of the source material, kind of trying to understand what I'm painting, what I'm getting ready to paint. I haven't actually played this game, so I don't know a whole lot about it. I played Dark Souls and the what's the other one they did, where it's kind of the Japanese samurai ninja-esque deal. It's kind of a fun one. Where's a can of air? Just blow off all the debris. And that's a good thing. Keep a can of air around for. You should keep around for your electronics too, mind you. Yeah, Sekiro, that's the one. They're both really great games, but I haven't had a chance to play this one. My son has. My oldest son's beat it, and so he was pretty excited to see this come in. All right, so now back. Let's see. Sir McBeasley says again, I love FromSoft games. They're literally my favorite. Yeah, that's awesome, man. They've got some killer character design and graphics, and that's a good studio. So this obviously is part of whatever's going on with the model itself. This is designed. That is not something that comes from a misprint or a mistake in the printing. So that we want to leave that alone. Elden Ring is the most accessible game they've made. Design is amazing. Yes, it is. Yeah, the other games are pretty difficult. They can be really hard. I kind of like that. I liked how hard they were. But I might get around to playing this one. Okay, so there's one that's a questionable piece. It doesn't really attach to this properly or this properly, so I'm betting that needs to come out. Yep, and it popped out super easy, so that's going to give us a nice clean look there. Kind of get it clean right there. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good. Ooh, I'm gonna knock the camera around. All right, I'm not seeing a whole lot. Here we go. Okay, there. This is a pretty good job. They actually did really well. I know it seems like I'm picking at their cleanup job before they sent it to Mr. Gold, who is our client for this. But I honestly sometimes wish they would ship these prints with all the supports on them so that you can pull them off. That's one of the reasons I bought my own printer, was because I was like, I'm tired of having to fix some of these things that I could have. If I didn't know what the model looked like before I printed it, I would have been able to pull it out of there properly. But I'm a perfectionist, so that is, take all of that with a grain of salt. So that's just how I am. Ooh, gotta be careful. There we go. Yeah. Alright, I'm pretty satisfied with that. Hopefully we don't find anything later and we have to pull it off. But we're gonna hit that part aside. We're gonna take a look at this. And the foot looks pretty good. Oop, there's a big old hair. The feet look pretty good. We're also we'll set some posts here in these holes. This one's clogged, so we're gonna need to drill that out. And that's just from the resin when it was being cured. They used a pretty nice lattice on the inside of it. I don't think you can actually see that in the camera, but the inside of this isn't the typical small lattice. It's a pretty strong internal support, which is great, really. It's got a pretty good weight to it, so it's not going to be something that gets knocked off of a stand really easily, which is great. Client is wanting this to be put on a shelf, so we want to make sure it's going to stay put really well. Might even add a little piece of felt or fabric to the bottom of this, make sure it's going to stay solid and not run around. All right, so this is a pen vise. Lots of different types of pen vises. This is one set. This is another different type of pen vise here. You know, they all kind of work the same. The idea is this section will open up and close around a drill bit. Yeah, there's several different types of drill bits. And this is different than a Dremel. I use a Dremel. Those things move pretty hard and fast. And with resin, sometimes hard and fast is a bad idea. It can really tear it up or make it crack. So you kind of want to be careful. Certain things require the Dremel on resin. Certain things don't. Something like this, we should be able to just drill a little hole in this and be fine. Now I'll go right for a little while, then I'll do a little left to kind of pull the material out of it a little bit. We're just going to go straight down because the idea is we want to add a pin to this so that when we mount it, to be able to add pins to this so that when we mount it to the base, it has something to stick on. We really want to avoid this having a chance of it falling on us, or the top of it separating from the base, that sort of stuff. It's just those extra sureties that I want. I like to make sure that here at the studio we put in the right stuff and to make sure it's done properly. Now, of course, like I said, a Dremel will definitely going to do that a whole lot faster for you, but you run the risk of it. You run the risk of making it crack the resin when you're going by hand. You have a little bit more time to move. See, now this, you can see how it's starting to come out wet. I don't know if you can tell, but it's coming out wet, which means that there's resin still in this foot, which is fine. It's no big deal. We're gonna make sure we got a nice, good, clean hole here. We're definitely gonna flush that resin out before we do anything else to it, because we want to make sure that's rinsed out and get this cleaned up before it hardens. And just basic stuff. All right, so put that guy to the side. Now, this one should be fine. Should be able to just mount this straight to the other guy with some glue. It's got plenty of a post to it. It should be okay, and it shouldn't be the kind of thing that gets rocked around a lot. But we do need to check it and make sure. Get that resin off there. Make sure there's no little parts to those supports or anything like that. Now these little fiber pieces, these are parts of like the ray of light that's coming off of him. He's got kind of like this sparks and light sources that kind of ebb off of the character itself. So we don't want to get rid of those. But this is definitely, you can't even see it. There's a tiny little piece right in here. We need to get that prepped up. The rest of this looks pretty solid. Just want to take a look around. I've got a couple places where we need to probably bring a file to it. Oh, it's a little bit of music, huh? It's better when there's music. Absolutely better. There we go. So, things like this, again, just a little file. Just to make it look smooth like the rest of them. Maybe I can put these guys away. Just so they're out of the way. anything that looks kind of suspicious. We want to get it off here. And you can see right here, well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. There's a few little lumps. Let's see if I can't grab it. You can see it right there. There's a few little lumps. 1, 2. That's from where the supports were taken off. Now with this, it looks like this is supposed to be a little bit of a straighter edge. So we can go ahead and knock that off with our file. There's a little divot where one of them came out. And kind of smooth that up a little bit. And you can see a bunch of them right here. There's a bunch of these little pock marks. All that's from the supports themselves. And we can do a little bit of just some quick filing. Take a little bit of that off of there. Now, I don't want to do too much because this is supposed to look a little bit craggy. So we don't want to obscure too much of the detail. But we can take a little bit of that pockiness out of it. And so it won't be so obvious that it was a 3D print. And these are just little techniques that, you know, when you're dealing with higher detailed modelers, it's just those little effects that we like to use. I'm gonna leave a lot of that. A lot of that looks like it's supposed to be kind of drippy. That piece looked like it was supposed to be a little smoother. And again, I'm really trying to focus on just those little pocks, because they're not on there. They're not supposed to be there, really. They're just from the print. And the supports. You can see one right there. Alright, that's looking pretty solid. Excellent, okay. Alright, that part's done. Base looks great. Really not much to say about it. This is by 3D Arcvell. So great job on the print, guys. Or the file. I don't know if they did the file and the print. But the file's pretty solid. It's really neat, really neat. There's a little bit of bevel on there. It's really hard to see it. You know, you can see a little bit here and stuff like that, but that's pretty typical 3D printing, just how it goes. Anyway, so like I said, we're gonna have to clean those up, and that'll take a while to get that cleaned up, but we can go ahead and get. Well, hello, Georgianne, how are you? So we're gonna go ahead and we'll snap these though for this pellet, for these. Boy, these old snips. I'm gonna have to get some new ones. There we go. That's a 16 gauge wire, and that's gonna be plenty of wire to put in here to make this guy stand up for us. We only need like about an inch of wire or so, just enough to make sure that he's not gonna wobble around and start to separate himself from where we glue him down to the base. Now you don't have to worry about this when they're smaller pieces quite as much. And we might add one. I'm considering adding one here. If we do that, we want him a little bit longer. So let's go ahead and snap him. So torso. There's already a hole in the torso for us. So let's go like that. And then let's say we want him about that long, right? And this, again, this is just going to add stability to the model on the inside, so it's not wobbling around, because when it wobbles, if it wobbles around too much, then it will, it'll eventually break its glue joints and stuff like that, and it'll separate itself. And that's not what we want. We want the customer to be very happy that that they chose to have our studio take care of this. We want them to be able to say for years to come, oh yeah, no, we had that done by Buy the pieces of pat paints guy. And that's what you want. So again, we'll make this rod for this, and we'll plant it in there, and we'll want to glue this to that. So it looks like all of our work is going to be on the foot side, which is fine by me. It'll be better to have it all in one side. We're just going to we're putting this hole right here in the middle of this guy. I eyeballed it. If you're really worried about it, you can measure it. It might even be easier if you had like a vise to hold this thing in instead of doing this one by hand, but I'm pretty strong. Got pretty strong hands. Again, I'm not putting too much force on here. Just a little bit. Kind of let that tool do the work for you. And it's one of the reasons I don't like to use my Dremel on resin, is it, unless I'm trying to cut right through something, it shatters that resin. And you really don't want that. That's not good. There we go. And now we're in. Be careful bending around too much on this, because it will definitely not result in a good time. Okay, and we probably are not going to end up needing it to be quite this long, but we want to start off a little bit more room than we think we need, and we'll add, we'll cut off more as we need to, and that way when he slides down on here, he's going to slide down and he'll have that extra support inside the body just to keep it from rocking around, as a helpful little bit. We're going to do the same thing to this bottom. Oh, I'm gonna grab my rag. Alright, so let's see if we can knock the rest of that resin out of here. We got it. Now, again, that's just stuff that kind of happens. You'll have places where it, not quite. Have places where it just kind of clogs up, and the resin doesn't quite evacuate the model the way you want it to. Oh, absolutely. Shai says, I can imagine with the vibrations and how hard it spins, a Dremel can really get away from you if you're not careful. Yeah, it really can. And with resin's a lot more brittle than like your typical modeling plastic, like what the these pieces from Citadel are made out of. And so they're not as forgiving as those other pieces are. So you definitely have to be careful. I want to make sure I can get these in here pretty good. They look like they're wanting to stick in there nice. And these pins, again, they're really going to help, really mainly to help make sure when we stick this to the base, it's going to stick in there really well. And we'll trim them down as we need to. We'll get there. But for right now, we really need to get the rest of this resin out of here. Do not let that stuff get on your fingers. It can give you a chemical burn. I really probably should be wearing gloves for this, but I've dealt with this a lot, so I'm kind of used to it now. Yeah, see, and there's a fiber. Now, whether that fiber came from us or whether it was in the model, who knows? If it was inside the resin, it would explain a few things as to why it did what it did. And I'm going to grab a glove just to make sure I don't get that out of my finger. There's quite a bit of resin in there. Let's make sure we get as much of that out as possible. Let's get a lot of that off of there. Alright, well I think we're in pretty good shape now. That should have done it. That's the other side. There we go. Anyway, we're going to have to let that probably set up for us. So, let's work on this other one. Okay. Now, like I said, I think we need to snip this guy again. Probably right here, if we're honest. Put that over there. Okay. Let's see how we do now. Okay, sit down there. All right. I think I'll be super careful. I think I just almost snapped something off the back. We'll have to make sure we didn't get this thing to settle down. Oh yeah, I'll have to fix that little hair piece. It's going to be better if we can get him to get onto the model or onto his base first. Will work out a lot better for us. I think we need to snip that one more time. I'm going to take a look. Yeah, we did pop that guy just a touch. So now I tried a bunch of different types of glue for these things, and I have found that this works the best. And you know what? We're going to snap that back on there after we get this mold set up, and so we're not knocking them around over and over again. And we're going to pull these two. We don't need them in there yet. Adding pins to things is definitely one of those deals. So I'm snipping off about that much more of it. Where you gotta get in there, you gotta get it to do what's gonna work for the individual model. And it's always a little bit different. There we go. Now he sits on there pretty good. And we're gonna have to do a little bit of sculpting. And this is kind of why we want to sit him down on here first. Because you can see, because it's two pieces, it's not going to fit quite as flush as you might want it to. We'll put in some Milliput to fix all this. Okay, so that's going to be our next step. So we're going to have to glue these parts together. And again, this spike is just to help keep it from rolling around in there and make sure it's going to stay nice and steady. Same thing with these pins. These pins are going to be for securing it to the base. I'm going to put a little glue right here around this. Now this Gorilla Gel glue is wonderful, wonderful stuff for gluing resin together. It's sticky, so it stays where it stays put on something. See, it's a lot thicker than a typical super glue, which is something I absolutely love about it. And so all our contacts are going to be in on this stuff. So we're going to make sure we got plenty of glue, because we're not going to worry about gluing these bottoms. We're going to stick that together with our Milliput. But I want to make sure I've got plenty of glue on here. We'll even add some to this guy. If it may, I don't know what contacts it's going to make on the inside, because I can't actually see in there. But anything it does touch, we'll take it, right? But I want to avoid getting all my glue out to the outside, because I don't want it squirting out when I push this thing down. There's that piece that we accidentally pinched. And that's alright. We're going to fix it in just a second. It'll be better when we can hold him by this part, because there's nothing here we can damage with our fingers. So we'll be able to hold him and paint this. We'll get all this painted. So we've got to get this part secured first. We're going to probably do all of this work, and then we'll attach this arm and finish this out. For now, we've got to get that set. So like I said, we'll make some Milliput, and we're gonna get in between all of this and figure that out. That way, it looks like a smooth connection. It comes together pretty good, but there's definitely some gap, and that's all right. Just keep a hold of this for a while. That way it can set up for us. All right. Really, really awesome piece. We're actually gonna have to bring it. We're gonna have to come out even further. Golly, he's so big. Looking awesome. Okay, so we'll have to glue that piece back on there. We snap that off. And actually, this is an opportune time. We'll probably fix this before we glue this on there. That way we don't have to try and do it in between this and this one and make a mistake. So we'll go ahead and fix this piece, and then we'll come back here and glue that part back on. Because there's a gap that's missing that's obviously supposed to be part of his ponytail. Same with here and here. And we need Milliput to do all that. So that is our next thing, is mixing up our Milliput. We don't want to lose this piece we accidentally knocked off. So we're going to set it over there in our bowl, along with this guy right here. Loving the detail in the model. Looks great. Yeah, it's a pretty good one. Like I said, the only thing that we're going to have to do freehand wise is this arm is like almost like smoke in all the pictures I've seen. And then there's a glyph. This glyph that's right here is in here, and I'm gonna have to do that freehand because it's not actually printed into the model. It wasn't put into the STL itself. So we're gonna have to paint that in, which is gonna require a little bit of freehand and then some trickery. But I'm pretty sure we can get it knocked out. I'm not too worried. All right, I'm gonna secure my super glue here. You don't want to leave your cap funky on super glue. It'll glue in there wrong. We'll put that off to the side. Probably gonna need that. All right, you go back over there, away from all the movement. And we didn't end up needing those pliers, which is fine. You can flip all that stuff up out of my way, just in case. And these are just little bits of those things we knocked off. Get all that out of the way. Get this cleaned off just a little bit. All right. So Milliput's pretty cool stuff. I love using it. It's a modeling compound. It's two-stage, which means you're going to take one part and mix it to another. And it's like clay that hardens without you having to cook it. So you don't have to fire it or anything like that. So for the purposes of what we're getting ready to do, this stuff is perfect. It's a little bit easier to deal with than another similar product called Green Stuff. They're both very much similar. I feel like Green Stuff is better if you're trying to build like a larger model piece. And the Milliput seems to work better for smallish stuff. Milliput seems to be water soluble until it hardens, so you can kind of use it to blend up. And I haven't had a whole lot of luck with Green Stuff wetting it down. But again, once they're hard, either one of them will work. And you can do the same thing with Green Stuff. I used to do it with Green Stuff. I did this giant before I started using Milliput. I did this giant in Green Stuff, which is, you can see it. The green in this is the same thing. And this is our, once we get to 250 on the channel, we'll be doing this guy. So help me get to 250. Give me those subscriptions and those thumbs ups and all those little thingies that we're always asking you for here on YouTube. Yeah. All right. So this one, you need about the same amount. So that was pretty close. It's not an exact science. We're not baking here, so you know it's all good. It's not exact chemistry. Maybe it is chemistry, but it's not exact chemistry. Anyway, we're not gonna blow anything up. I'm gonna put that over there. That box is falling apart on me. I always try to keep things in boxes as long as I can, but boxes never really last that long when you're talking about crafting your supplies. So it's a little funky. All right, so this is pretty easy. We're just going to mix this stuff together until it becomes one color. Again, you could use gloves if you wanted to. Grab some gloves. It does get on your fingers. It makes it a little crazy, especially the more you start mashing it. So you can wear gloves. It can leave fingerprints too, so, you know, plastic gloves look cool. Yeah, man, this is going to be a really neat one. I'm super excited about it. Okay, so now we're to all one color, right? Looks good. So first things first, we're going to work on his midsection. Stay. Always keep a box of black nitrile gloves on hand. Yes, sir. I have like I think I still have most of the case from when I had to close my restaurant. So anyway, we're going to make everybody's favorite grade school project, a snake. And we're gonna put the snake around the outside of him, and we're going to pull out some of our sculpting tools, and we're going to sculpt it. I probably made more of it than I really need, but that's all right. So I have a variety, like a large variety of different types of sculpting tools, depending on what you need to do with them. For this one, we probably need this guy. This one should do just about everything we need to do. It's got like a flat piece on one end and a needle on the other. And it should allow us to kind of push this guy up around where we need it to go. Because you're not going to be able to get your fingers all the way up underneath there. But a needle on a stick. Heck yeah, man. Those look like big models. Are they giants or just models for a display or other game? That's from Bill Allen. So yeah, this is for a game called Elden Ring. Golly, yeah, we can come up even higher, huh? So this is for a game called Elden Ring, and these are statuettes. So yeah, it's a much larger print than what we've been typically dealing with. In the game, yes, he's like a massive god, from what I understand, and he's a final boss, one of the final bosses. I guess you beat him, and then you go to the final boss. And the client has several of these Elden Ring pieces. This is the first one he got that we're gonna do. If he likes the work, then this will lead me to some more commissions, which is great. That's what we really want to do. It's good stuff. We're a little bit ahead of schedule. I thought I was going to get to this next week, but it looks like we're going to get to it this week. Alright, so I just grabbed just a tiny bit of water, and I'm going to use that water on this Milliput to kind of smooth it out a little bit. And once it dries, it's waterproof, but when it's still kind of in its setting form, you can use that water to smooth out your work, which is wonderful. That's a good thing to have. Now again, we put a pin in here first, so he's got a pin on the inside of his torso to help with the stud that was already there. Just to, you know, in the midsection, I like having that extra bit of support. Come off there. Let's see, Esquire says, I believe Radagon is about 8 to 9 feet tall, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's pretty big. He may or may not be like a half giant, according to the mythos. From what I was, I try to understand a little bit about any subject I'm going to paint, so I do a little bit of research, and from what I can understand, because of his red hair, he may be related to these giants from this universe he's in. We'll find out, I guess. There's apparently a new DLC coming that will expose a little bit more information, so we're gonna find out. I'm gonna look up some more lore on it as we go, so I'll be trying to throw that stuff down. Definitely gonna be fun to have anybody who knows the game in the comments to help make sure we get the lore accuracy right. It's kind of fun having one that I don't know anything about. I usually know a lot about the figures I'm painting. Ms. Sir McPhersley, trying to understand FromSoft lore is a massive task in itself. Even at the end, it only leads to speculation, which is the fun part. Yeah, that's the good thing about a good myth or good lore world building. You wanna make it to where it's that never-ending mythos. You can kind of keep going on forever with it. If you can do that, then you've got a product that's, for the game world, it can go on forever. It's part of what's great about Dungeons and Dragons is there's so many multiverses and stuff like that for it that it can literally go on forever. And you can create your own stuff, and it's still technically part of D&D. Alright, and you see how this one, I'm just kind of trimming away that excess. I'm trying to get down to where the crevice is and clean it up as I'm going along. Be super careful. You really don't want to be knocking off too many more of these things unless we have to. Because every time we knock any piece off of there, we're going to have to fix it. Beardsley, George R.R. Martin actually helped with writing some of the Elden Ring lore. Oh, well, that's fun. That's the Song of Fire and Ice guy, or Game of Thrones. That's pretty neat. He is an interesting writer. Yeah, you can see that. There's a lot of Irish and Gaelic lore references to some of the things they do, and some Japanese references to it too. So, and that's, you know, George R. R. Martin likes to take things from the real world and kind of spin it up a little bit, which is a great way of world building. Take something that's already happened, because the truth is always stranger than fiction, and then kind of write your own stuff into it. And we just want to keep coming right across this edge here. And we'll smooth that out with a little bit of water. Because we don't want to obscure any of the details that are in here. And we got to get all this done prior to priming. And we're gonna need to check that other arm and see how well it's gonna set up in there. Because if it's got a gap, we've got to get the gap set before we prime it. Should be fun though. I'm really excited. He's got really red hair, but most of him seems to be grays and blacks. So that'll be. It won't take long to paint this guy once we get started. He's so big we might even break out the airbrush. 'Cause he's a big one. Definitely would be easier to do with the airbrush. All right. A little bit of water. Stay over there. Stay over there. Yeah, it's definitely it's important to do all this prep work properly. You'll be happy you've done it when it's over. It might be a little bit of a pain in the beginning. A lot of times I'm like, I want to paint it. But it really is better to make sure it's done proper. Over there. I just keep putting the excess back on our pile that we got down there. just using that edge to kind of cut it out. What I don't need. Just kind of slowly scraping it out. Just to tie back with. I've always enjoyed sculpting and carving. I'd really enjoy this part. Yeah, this is a lot of people really enjoy the sculpting aspect. I like it too. I've done a lot of sculpting in my day. Shy knows that. A few other folks that are friends of the channel. No, I used to do a lot of carving and sculpting when I taught culinary school. I mostly melon carving, a lot of melon carving, which is fun. But I also used to do what's called saltiage sculpting. Saltiage is like it's a salt dough, and it's a lot of fun. I made a life-size samurai once, which was really cool. And back here in the back, we really just want to make sure it's going to stay even and look clean. We don't want it to look like we added anything to it. He's kind of a little bit jagged in general. So that kind of is helpful for us. But the part where his cloth is going to meet up with him needs to look like it's still cloth. So we want to make sure we're nice and clean in there. A little bit of water really helps. Ooh, that pulled out a little too much. There we go. And this stuff is also sandable when it dries, which is kind of nice. Green stuff is sort of sandable. I definitely remember assisting with some soil sculpting when you were instructing. It's been a few years since I carved a melon. Yeah, it's luckily though, it's something that, like, if you've carved a melon before, there's a pattern to that. So if you can just remember the pattern and the skills that you were supposed to do, then yeah, you can just get right back to it. It's not that difficult. Alright, that's pretty satisfactory right there. Pretty doggone satisfactory. Okay. This may be another great place for one of our little makeup sponges. These little guys are awesome. And we're going to get them wet. We're going to kind of use that to smooth this out. Clean up any excess places that we don't want to have our Milliput in. super helpful right here. All right, pretty happy with that. Down you go. Okay. Now, we gotta figure out some of these other little details that we're missing. And this is where it's gonna get a little bit more complicated for us. So, this is where it's going to get a little bit hairy. So what I want to do here is I want to simulate the ring and the little nub that's going on there. First thing we need to do is get the ring set up. And I want to, hopefully I've got enough material on here to be able to do both parts of this. What's up, Butt? What is it, buddy? You say hi to everybody. Hello, Butt. What's up, Bud? You say hi to all your peoples. You give us a meow. Butt's like our little mascot, huh? Where's Kale? He's home today. Shouldn't he be taking care of you? Buddy? I thought that was my cat mount for a moment. Right? Nope. It's the Butt. It's the Butt. I gotta get back to work though, buddy. I got stuff to do. And this stuff's gonna harden up on me. Yeah, cats are fun. He's always coming back here when I'm working on stuff, just to check on me. And just a little bit of water to help us kind of smooth it out a little bit. And this takes mostly a lot of patience. You do have to have a kind of a steady hand for it, but just a little bit of practice and you should be able to get this. This is a whole lot easier since he's so much bigger than our normal model size. So doing a sculpt on him is going to be a whole lot easier. We'll give that a little pinch. I don't want it coming apart. trying to get this to look like the hair coming to an end. Oh yeah? Do you see something out there, bud? He's all the way out where you can't see him. Alright, so it should come in slightly here where it's going to squeeze out of the bangle. Get a little bit of lift, that'll look great. Alright. I'm going to pull it all. Not too much, don't pull it off of there. Just a little bit of water, not too much. Alright, now try to carefully lift this piece up into where that bangle is so we can have that separation. Really hard to see what I'm doing there. Well, I mean, it's not hard for me to see. It's hard to see it on the camera. But we're just making a little bangle here. Little hoop, ring, whatever you want to call it. And trying to make it look like his hair tip is coming out of it. There we go. Clean up the area around it. There we go. All right. These two little things I feel like are going to be the hardest part of the fixes we got to do. Once we get these two little braids fixed, the other one back there is easy. Come down, come down. There we go. That was up way too high. Alright, so there we go. I got one tip fixed. I gotta fix the other one. Whew. Well, doesn't that make your sphincter curl up? And we'll go around the other side and we'll fix that other piece, and I think we'll be pretty close to able to let it set up and prime it. And you guys don't have to watch that. I think I'm gonna Radagon this guy black because there's so much black going on in general. Wet just a little bit. This one might end up being a little bit more difficult for us. There's not a whole lot for it to stick to. Alright, second verse, same as the first. I'm going to make a little ring first, or the image of a ring, the impression of a ring. I'm going to make people believe there's a ring. What's up, buddy? Getting all the things put together and fixing all the little bits. There's a couple little things that you know how it is when you're making 3D prints. Sometimes the parts come off of it wrong.
Yep.
So I'm gonna get these fixed up real quick so we have a better look.
Right.
And then we gotta prime it. And I gotta figure out what to do with this piece because it doesn't really go on him. But I want to use it because it's really cool, and this is like the logo. I gotta figure out what to do with it. I'm gonna do something with it on the base, I think. As one of my boys, he is out of school for spring break. Might end up adding more to that here in just a second. I think I want to make it a little bit fuller. This one's going to end up a little fuller, so it's going to look a little better. Yeah, I don't know about. It's going to be hard to get him and it on there at the same time. I might stand it up to where it's like right here, because there's going to be. This is going to be so much like one color that I don't want it to look. We might need to break this up, so I might figure out a way to stand it up to where it's like showing off in front of him. We're also going to paint the same thing in here, but that's going to be different. It's a neat little part, and I'm definitely glad I have it because I'm going to need it for the reference. I want the use of it to make sense. Hair is such an interesting thing to sculpt in general. It's either sculpting or drawing it are both, they both present some challenges. That looks pretty darn good. I really think we need to add just a touch more to that other one. This part can get tricky. What I'll usually do is I'm going to get it real wet and smushy. They're not going to want to stick together at first. But this needs more material. This one needs just a touch around and out. Okay. It's been helpful to get us in a spot where we know where he needs to sit to get him in camera. A very, very, very helpful session. Not exactly painting, but you gotta. There's more stuff to painting something than just the painting part of it. There's a process. Especially if you want it to look right. I mean, if you're just trying to get it done, and you know, I've got some times where I'm just trying to get it on the table. But this is a finer art piece project. This is a mantelpiece, centerpiece kind of idea. So we really want to make sure we're putting together a good final product. Yeah, a little bit more material really helped us out here. Give us the ability to sculpt that properly. Even though I did cut a little bit of it away originally, which now I'm, of course, regretting. But such is life. Okay. Alright. Pretty happy with both of those. He says as he goes right back to messing with them. Okay. Woo! Alright, if that wasn't nerve-wracking enough, we still got some more to go. And I mixed up way too much of this stuff, but that's okay. I always do that. I always end up mixing up too much of it. I make little rocks and stuff like that for like other sculptures out of it. I'll like mold it into a little rock and I'll save it later. I have a box full of them. Okay, so this next one is just part of the braid, so we can, I really feel like we can just sculpt it and then stick it on there. A little bit of water on there. Makes me nervous. He's so top heavy, he's just kind of like any second now he's just gonna fall over. Alright, we're just gonna get that stuck on there. Hey, it looks like we're not gonna be able to sculpt it the way I was hoping to, so we're gonna do it the hard way. So I'm gonna make sure it's good and stuck on there. And we're gonna get what we're gonna do like we did before. This gets a little harder because it's a three-dimensional piece now. We don't have anything to lay it on, which is why I was hoping we were going to be able to stick it on there. Hold on, I got an idea. We'll cover it in this first. Get it on there. Get it wet and mushy. Alright, now I'm going to try and sculpt up our little part, and we'll see if we can't get it wet and mushy on one side and stick it on there. I'm going to get rid of these stupid gloves. They're totally getting in the way. Okay. I'm going to try to get that to activate. Alright, now maybe we can get it to stick substance to substance. There we go. That's much better. Alright, now get on there. This thing's definitely giving us a little bit of fits today. Getting this on. It's funny how the ones that needed more detail sculpting were actually harder or easier. And this little nub of nothing is going to be the one that's going to be a pain. There is that other, the other big one that's right here. If we got to figure that out, but. Might have to make that and then glue it on. That is what I'm thinking. So we're gonna sculpt a little, just a little hair bit. Make a flat end to it. I'll let that dry. Clean up this excess mess. And we'll glue that on later. That's a little frustrating, but sometimes it's just how it goes. Alright. And we were successful on these two, which is great. And this is weird, because I don't know that there would be a clasp on that. I'll look at the source material a little bit. See, it's really hard to tell. Because there's not like... There's a few pictures of this. Ponytails and stuff, but... A lot of times it looks like it's just his hair wrapped up in itself. Okay. So I think with this, we just need to put two tips on it. We'll just call that it. That's nice. Oh, something winning for us finally here. Some breaks our way. Yay! Celebration. And this one should be relatively straightforward. We just want to bring it to a tip and then we'll carve the rest of it in. stick on there for us. Almost got it. I think we're finally starting to stick on real well, which is great. That's the first step, is getting the dang stuff to stick to the resin. Because golly, it didn't like it. I'm gonna stick his feet right in the camera. Come on. It's got to get gooey enough to mold and stick at the same time. It may have dried up too much on us. I'm going to blame the cat. Which is definitely the danger of mixing too much of this up at once, is that it can dry up on you a little faster than you want it to. But I think we're going to be okay. Just got to be a little patient. Takes a little bit of patience. And you just kind of have to keep working through it. We're almost got there. So there's one tip. Done. Come on out of there. We'll restore that tip of that hair. Holy moly, that's a pain in the butt. I really don't like having to do all these repairs. But like I said at the beginning, this is kind of typical of 3D prints. They just kind of getting them out of their little molds is a pain. And a lot of times stuff like this just happens. But if you want it to look right, I'll just pull that out. Then you have to fix it. Alright, so there's one tip. And then we'll just make this other tip. Come on. I just want it to look like it's not broken. But we definitely don't have the piece to glue it back on. So instead of them being hard stops, we just want to bring them to a tip. Like I said, the first key is getting this stuff to stick to it properly. Then after that you can sculpt. That's kind of out of focus, but it's really hard to see what I'm doing and stay on camera. There. Now at least they don't look like they just stopped. Looks like it came to a tip. That's nice. That's better. In my opinion. Allegedly. Okay. Now this doesn't need any repairs, but let's make sure it's going to stick here really well. I'd like to be able to just glue this into him later on. How's he holding it? He's holding it like that. Oh, that's pretty dang close, but it is not perfect, is it? Oh, look at down here. Alright, troops, we're gonna have to Alright, let's try seeing if we can get this peg to file out for us. Maybe we can. Now, if you're going to do a lot of filing and you're creating a whole lot of dust, definitely wear a mask. This stuff is not stuff you need to be breathing in. We're just doing a little bit of quick work. I'm not terribly worried about it. That's much closer. Much closer, but not perfect. Looks like maybe we got a little piece of a support there. Oh, that's pretty dang close. Still not perfect. Yep, we're gonna have to glue this in, and then we'll have to Milliput around the outside of that one. Ah! I gotta stand up for just a second. Stretch my legs around a little bit. Oh, goodness. Okay. Good thing we still have some of this, huh? Okay. Don't grab your tube, by the way. Always grab this little thing right here. You grab your tube and it's going to start squirting out at you as soon as you open it up. Oh, we'll get a little bit of, we'll go ahead and maybe we can get this stuck on here real quick while we're doing all this. It's going to take a while to hold that thing down. Eventually it'll stick. It just takes a while. You got to be very patient. Might be better to have him upside down. Let gravity do a lot of this work for us. It's totally okay to give it a wiggle. I kind of get that glue to move in there. Sometimes you can even like jab it up and down and get it to kind of stick itself. Yeah, just trying to get all these little bits repaired prior to priming. This is all pretty standard prep work for most models, and especially 3D prints. Like I said, 3D prints, they're really awesome, and you can get some of the coolest models through some of the 3D print guys. But they do come with their own special set of challenges. So it isn't like the end all be all of everything. There's pros and cons. Just like anything. Okay. This piece here. There's enough glue. Nope, the glue's dried up on us just a little too much. Oh, I smashed them. Ah, turds. Well, now I gotta resculpt all that. I hate when I do that. It makes me so angry. Ugh. I was trying to get too much done at once. I should have just let them dry. Come back to this tomorrow. But that's my own fault. Let's get this guy on here. We'll go back and reset those. There we go. Well, that makes me real mad. This one's in pretty good shape. This one's not too bad off. Get all, like I say, get all this stuff done first, and then throw your primer down. Don't try to do this after. You'll make it'll never line up right. It'll always look like you did it after the fact. If we do this first, and then when we throw the primer down, you'll never know that there was ever any mistakes unless somebody points them out to you. Alright, that one's fixed. Now let's get this one redone. Jeez of me. What a mess. Maintaining good 3 solid videos. Thanks guys for sticking around for all my shenanigans. Really appreciate it. It gives us those oh so necessary watch time hours. So long show today. Lots of work to do. Oh, we also need to look at Illuminor Xeris all done up. He's all finished now. You just kind of got to be patient and be careful. Take your time. You'll figure this one out. I promise you. Just be patient with yourself. Everybody makes those little errors. Heck, you saw me make a major one. I smashed the ever-living snot out of these things. And now we're right back where we started. Which is great. That part's done. Let it all out. Okay. Really don't want to put him. I'm not putting him on a stand today because I don't want to have to try and hold that big stand while I'm trying to paint him. But we definitely want to get the rest of this Milliput in here. And I'm gonna get this stuff pretty darn. I'm gonna get this one pretty wet. I put some water on my finger. You might have seen that. I want to turn this into like a much wetter version of this, like a putty or a like spackling. And it'll get their way in a second. It just takes a little bit adding that water to it. Work it in there. Alright, that helped. It's a little bit wetter, a little bit stickier, a little bit more malleable. All those fun terms. Three o'clock. That's 2 hours right there, guys. We've been cruising today. Alright, just trying to make sure we get it into this crack. And we're going to use that little sponge on a stick to smooth this out. Because there's a lot of ridges here on the model. And I think the best way to do here is kind of let those ridges be there, and we're gonna use the water to smooth it all out. And I'm just gently, it's just very gently rubbing it with wet. This is a makeup applicator is what this is. You can buy these at like Walmart or Target, or probably find them at CVS, maybe even the dollar store. They're great little tools for this sort of thing, and you can keep them for a little while, and then when they get all messed up, you can toss them. I try to get as many uses out of them as possible before I pitch them, just because, you know, environmentalism. I try to be good to the planet. Just as a general rule. It's the only one we live on currently, so, you know, it's the one we got. Might as well try to take care of it, I suppose. Okay, great. A little bit of water here. Fix that up. Alright, well, here we go, folks. Now we're going to let this guy dry. Ooh, way out of focus, or frame. So we're going to let this guy dry, because we got to let all that Milliput set up and it'll take a couple of days. I'll get, or well, a couple hours. I'll have it done, so I'll be able to get this primed today, later on, and then we'll be able to paint on it next week, which is gonna be awesome. So we're getting real close to being able to get started. So come check us out next week on Monday, and we're gonna get to rest of this guy going. I'll pick our paint colors and talk about that, and we'll get going. So we're going to prime in black as soon as all the Milliput finishes drying, and then we're off to the races, so to speak. So we did really, really great. Really impressed today. Really happy with what we got done today. And so we will be back next week. I hope you guys had a great day. I had a great time. We're going to see you guys then. And Steve, roll us on out of here. Thanks, bud.